Good evening and welcome to episode 19 of the Pack Homer podcast. One we didn't know we'd get to do a super regional preview between the NC State Wolfpack and the Georgia Bulldogs. Brought to you by Waters and Mathis CPAs. If you want to strike out the IRS or remove the IRS or whatever our sponsor would like us to say, visit WMCPAs.com. Tonight, Wesley's still in the heartland. He didn't make it with us. We're actually, me and Adam, it's 10:48 p.m. right now on a Thursday night. Me and Adam are just starting to record. We've had a really, really long week ourselves, but we are going to give it our best effort to kind of give you our thoughts and opinions on the series this weekend in Athens. And I know we're both excited. We're operating on optimism and caffeine. Adam, what you think?
Yeah, no, I'm excited that the guys left today. I guess they driving down to Athens, um, which seems somewhat unfortunate that they're having to do that. But yeah, I'm excited. I think it's a good matchup for us. I haven't really watched Georgia play this year. I did watch them against a couple of those. I think I mentioned it the other night after we wrapped up the regional podcast that I watched some of that series when they played Georgia Tech earlier in the year, just because it was kind of like, you know, Burris was off to such a hot start, and Condon obviously was too. So it was kind of billed as, Burris versus Condon, and I can't remember exactly. I think they only played two of three, got two or three in, but both games were really close. Which is not obviously saying a lot. We obviously went to Atlanta and Georgia Tech swept us, so it's hard to compare the team we were then to who we are now. But I'm excited. I think we match it pretty well. They've got Charlie Condon, and then it just seems like they're pretty human after that, right? And I feel like we've just got the better top to bottom lineup probably, but or maybe. But I definitely think we have the better pitching staff, at least right now. Again, not on paper. We keep saying it over and over, but you cannot judge our pitching staff, and certainly not our guys that are coming out of the bullpen based on what their stat lines read on paper. So I'm excited for the guys to go down there and get started in Athens. We somehow landed the lovely noon slot both days. So I haven't really looked up what the Athens weather is. I know it was 106 heat index today in Northeast Florida. So, normally it's a little cooler up Athens way, but I would imagine it's still going to be pretty warm this weekend, especially at 12 noon both days.
Yeah, I think we're looking at mid to upper 80s. I was going to get to that point
That's
later,
not bad.
but one of the things I wanted to fuss about, you mentioned it. It did look like on our Pac baseball, NC State baseball Instagram today that we were taking the buses, and I'd read a little bit about that. Our buddy Murph at the office was telling me that if you're not more than 400 miles away, and I think it may be in all sports, that the NCAA does not pay your tournament travel by airplane unless you're over 400 miles away. And I think we're 300 and some miles from Athens. I didn't look exactly, but I'm pretty frustrated with all the money. I think it was our football coach one time that said that the NCAA stands for no clue at all. And how would all the revenue that this thing's generating, all the excitement is bringing to college baseball, and these guys got to get on a bus and ride 6 hours. I mean, it's one thing, for our team. I think we're frugal guys. If they took a bus down to Georgia Tech during the regular season, we wouldn't frown upon that. But these guys are playing to go to the College World Series, and we got to take a bus down to Athens because the NCAA won't pay our way. And I don't know for a fact that they took the bus. Maybe they just took the bus to the airport and the athletic department footed the bill. But I hadn't got confirmation of that. But I was a little disappointed to see us on the bus. As far as UGA, Adam, I think one of the things that you said you hadn't watched too much, and I hadn't either. I think probably the most of my viewing was clips on Twitter of Charlie Condon hitting home runs. He's hit 36 home runs. Going to be probably number one draft pick. Probably going to win the Golden Spikes Award. So he comes with a lot of fanfare. One of the things I did think that was an interesting parallel to UGA trying to make it to Omaha and our own aspirations is that in 2008, I believe we beat South Carolina to make it to the Super Regional, and UGA beat Georgia Tech to make it to the Super Regional. And then in 2008, unfortunately, they eliminated us and went to the College World Series. But Georgia has a first-year head coach. Not Go ahead.
No. I'm sorry. I wasn't meaning to cut you off. I was going to say also that year in that regional when we beat South Carolina, we also had JMU in our regional that year.
So yeah, a lot of parallels there. And Georgia has a first-year head coach. I don't think that he's obviously not a newbie to baseball, but Wes Johnson's their first-year head coach. It's got to be a pretty wild ride to get the gig, and now you're 2 wins away from the College World Series. But if you just pull out the stat book, and Adam, I'm going to have you while I'm rambling here in just a second. I want you to look up what our buddy Alex G said about our bullpen because you were talking about stats earlier being misleading. But Georgia's hit 145 home runs, which is just really, I mean, that's a huge number. And the pack now, if you're curious of how that compares, NC State's hit 89 home runs. So Georgia's hit 145. That's led by Charlie Condon, who's hit 36. And then their leadoff man, Corey Collins, has hit 19. So if we start talking about things in the game that are going to be something that we really got to keep an eye on, I think that we really got to focus on keeping the ball in the ballpark. Some of the folks that have said that this isn't a great matchup for us, because I'm with Adam. I don't think this is a terrible matchup. I like how we match up against them. But a couple of the things, that are kind of discouraging is that we kind of tend to have several guys that are weekend guys for us that are fly ball pitchers. They obviously, I don't care I don't care what anyone says. They're playing in a hitter friendly park. You don't hit 145 home runs if you're not playing in a hitter friendly park. So trying to make sure that every one of those fly balls doesn't get absolutely barreled up with 100 plus exit velocity is going to be important, because when they hit the ball in the air, a lot. We like to, our pitchers tend to get a lot of fly balls. I think that's going to be a big story, is how much we can keep those fly balls from ending up in the trees of the parking lot.
I would agree with that.
And then also, I think another thing I thought that was. Go ahead.
No, I guess there was a little delay there. Sorry. I was going to say the other thing that's going to be important is they're obviously going to have some balls that leave the stadium. We have, like you said, we do give up a lot of fly balls. I don't know our percentage rate and all that sort of stuff, but like our buddy Alex does. But it's just going to be so much more important to just limit the traffic on the bases, in my opinion. Just it's going to make it that much more important to not give up walks like we talk about and put guys on and we've had some luck, some success doing that. Even though we've given up home runs, we've limited the damage by making them solo shots. Solo shots aren't going to kill you at this stage, but you screw around and get a couple guys on, and then you talk about a 3-run home run or something like that. That's what really gets you down. Those are hard to recover from.
Yeah, I think last weekend is a good example of us, limiting them to a lot of solo shots. I don't know how many home runs we gave up, but it didn't seem like wasn't a lot of damage done. I think we were in a 4-1 ball game that turned into a 4-2 game. Well, if you walk a couple of guys before them, that can get out of hand. The other stat that I wanted to kind of compare is that we've talked a lot, probably ad nauseum this year, about how NC State is one of the teams that strikes out the fewest in college baseball. And I think if you look at all the big conference schools, we have one of the lowest K rates in all of college baseball as a lineup. And UGA has one of the highest K rates from a pitching staff in all of college baseball. One of the things when I was doing my homework that I did notice is that with that, Georgia also, they tend to probably walk more guys than you would expect of an SEC pitching staff. They were last in the SEC in walks per 9 innings. And I think for us, that is a promising statistic because, especially here lately, Adam, we have been very opportunistic on the base paths. We've played small ball probably more than I've ever seen an Elliott Avent coach team do that. The bottom of our lineup, especially like when you look at, whether it be Luke Nixon or Butterworth or Noah Souls. I mean, Noah Souls hit 2 home runs last weekend, but he'll also lay one down in a heartbeat. Matt Hebner has kind of proven that he's elite with handling the bat. So I think, we're going to create some game pressure for them because they issue a lot of free passes. And if you look at their comparison, they have their pitching staff this year has walked 200 and 265 guys. And so that's a lot of traffic. And in the regional last week, their pitchers had 29 strikeouts in 3 games, but they also had 26 walks. So I think we're a team that is not scared to take pitches and earn a free pass, and we're also a team that can be opportunistic on the base pass. Maybe not necessarily swiping bags all night, even though we've done a little bit more of that lately too. So I think that's going to be a big storyline. Adam, what do you think? For us as an offense against their pitchers, who do you think is going to have to? Where do you think the offense is going to come from this weekend? Do you think it's still going to be a hodgepodge, or do you think we're going to have to rely on the big boys to carry us?
I think if the big boys do carry us, if AMAC and Pennington hit for the average, or stay as hot as they have been, then I honestly feel like that we win. Probably win in 2. I mean, just because those guys have been so big for us. I do think it's going to be patient. We need to be patient, like you said, with the walks that they've issued. Um, I like our lineup. I would like to see a little more patience from Serrano. I'm assuming at this point, at this juncture of the season, we're not going to change the lineup. Um, I would like to see a little more patience um, from Eli in the leadoff spot. He's been jumping on a lot of early pitches lately, and he had a good regional. So not to gripe, but he swings early in the count. I do think it probably bodes well to us though that Georgia's only got, I think, 2 lefties that have pitched double-digit innings. So they're a right-handed heavy pitching staff. I think their top 4 or 5 pitchers are all righties. Obviously, we are a heavy lefty batting team, so that helps us. And I feel like as the season has gone on, the growth. You talked about we talked about our guys being patient at the plate and the ability to draw walks and not strike out. I just feel like that, and I keep saying it every week. We start talking about postseason baseball, and it's just all about pitching. Like good pitching wins this time of year, and I think we've got great pitching. All considering, especially you factor in the quality of our bullpen. But if we can be patient at the plate, like we have seemingly been progressing. I mean, the way Alex Sosa is seemingly seeing the ball at the plate is just so impressive to me. But if we can have some success with getting some guys on, scoring early, and our starters able to get us, midway through the game in a close game, I feel great about our chances with the staff that we've got in the bullpen because I don't think Georgia matches up well to the pitching depth that we have. So I'm. You asked about hitting. I feel like if a couple of these guys, Hefner's a guy that we've seen some flashes from, right? At times, been a little cooler at the dish, right? Seemingly in like the ACC tournament and in the regional. If somebody like that has a breakout series, and Butterworth continues to have some timely hits and get on the base path and cause a little excitement there. Um, man, I really feel great about our chances this weekend.
Yeah, you mentioned Eli Serrano, and I know in our text threads, it's real easy to get frustrated when the guy swings at as many first pitches as he seems to, especially when he swings at them and they're not hits. But I looked up Eli today because, I've been appreciative. Like he's hit the ball a lot better lately. And so I went
No
back and I
doubt.
was like, well, I want to do a little bit of homework and say, how much better has he hit it? Well, since May 1st, Eli Serrano's hitting 354. Which it's not. I can get lost sometimes when you're watching the games. If he doesn't come through in a moment when you hope he does, or any hitter. But he's hit 354 since the beginning of May. Another thing that I noticed last week that I haven't seen all year. I think in the beginning of the year, you probably, if you've listened, you've heard me talk about that we have a solid defensive team, but we don't take away hits. Well, Eli Serrano took away some hits last week. I, honest to God, did not know that he has the range in the outfield that he does. I mean, he flat out went to the gap last week a couple of times and took away balls. Now, I'm not saying Eli's Vance Honeycutt. Eli wouldn't say that either. I mean, I think Vance Honeycutt, I hate to say it, he's probably one of the best defensive center fielders I've ever watched in
For
college
sure.
baseball. But
For sure.
Eli has a great arm, and he proved to me last weekend that he can really cover some ground and more than I thought he could. So I think defensively, another thing I noticed was that they're a team where where we've hit into 21 double plays, they've hit into 40 double plays. So I do think it is important that when we issue the free pass or we give up the leadoff single, that our defense that really got us out of some jams last week, that we stay solid on the infield and are able to roll some double plays. I think, anytime you're playing on the road, you need a little help on the bang bang call and you need to maybe steal it out here and there. And I think that's going to be important this weekend too. Adam, did you get the stats off our pictures that Alex has shared? Did you look that up when I asked you a minute ago? Or I can find it,
I
but it's
did.
pretty
I
dang
did.
impressive.
I did. I got it. This is something
What
that
you
our
got?
buddy Alex G put together, but he's and Alex's um, beginning of this tweet that he put out says NC State has legitimate claim as the best bullpen left playing in the ACC play in the ACC and the NCAA tournament games since April the 12th. Duden, Smith, Consiglio, and Marone out of the pen. 49.1 innings pitched, 22 hits, 63 strikeouts, 1.83 ERA. And those games are against, including series against Clemson, UNC, Florida State, Virginia, Wake, Duke, and then obviously the three regional games. So not 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 against a lot of gimme games or no gimme games. I mean, all top 12
All
series
tournament
teams
teams.
and all tournament teams, and then against the ACC in the ACC tournament and also in the regional last weekend. So, man, what a stat! And you look at our stats and the numbers are starting to average out now, right? You keep every time I'm watching the game and Derek Smith walks out there, I'm like, oh, that ERA is getting a little better because he hadn't given up a run in so long. But it just yeah, that's a really impressive stat. That's why I feel so strong about our chances this weekend because our bullpen is, in my opinion, and the argument that Alex was making is just legitimately probably the best left out there.
Yeah, and then you talk about like the 183 ERA. I mean, that's just phenomenal. But you mentioned earlier, Georgia, and I did a little homework on them, but they got three righties that they like to start. Or last weekend they started Leighton Finley, who I think is their guy. He closed out Game 3 against Georgia Tech, but he only threw 3.2 innings before Army chased him. But he's a right-hander. Colton Smith's another right-hander. I think the thing about Colton Smith for Georgia is he's got like 99 strikeouts, I think, in 60 some innings. And then Zach Harris is another
19
righty.
walks.
And so you're like, man, it's 19. What'd
Colton
you say,
Smith
Adam?
has 99 strikeouts and 19 walks.
So he's a buzzsaw.
Yeah.
but very right-handed against our very left-handed lineup. And when you get into the supers, and I complimented Coach Chrysler Monday night or Sunday night, I'm gonna do it again. You really you talked about those four guys out of the pen, which I presume, like you said, we'll roll with the same lineup and the same rotation. But when you talk about those four guys out of the pen, and they have two guys that are left-handed that thrown double-digit innings against our very heavy left-handed lineup. Well, we can come at you a lot of different ways because if someone gets chased early, and I said it earlier this week, I think that having a quick hook is important because those guys in the bullpen are just too dang good to sit over there on ice. And
Absolutely.
but you get in a jam early, maybe you bring Marone in left-handed out of the bullpen in game one, maybe in the fourth or fifth inning. But you got Marone out of the bullpen and left-handed. You got uh, uh, Coop out of the bullpen left-handed. You got Derek Smith and Duden from the right side. And even though those guys, you say they kind of look a lot alike as far as both of them throwing mid to upper 90s and both of them throwing wipeout breaking balls, but it's a little bit different look from both of them. I think you kind of see a little bit more of the up and down spin from Smith, a little bit more of the side to side from Duden. Duden's got a little bit more velo on the fastball. He's a little bit more effectively wild than Smith is. Smith is not a guy at all that you would call effectively wild because he's just going to go in there and he's going to pound the zone. And what has been crazy about Smith here lately, and I love the fastball, but that guy can throw both pitches in the zone, both sides of the plate, right-handed batter, left-handed batter, seemingly right now to any time he wants to do it. And I just I like our lineup, and we mentioned AMAC being able to carry us. We mentioned Pennington. I've been so impressed at how many balls he just seems to hit hard. But Cozart is a bat that, I mean, if he goes to Athens this weekend and hits 5 home runs in 3 games, it would not shock us. I mean, he's a guy that can do that. He can go out there and hit the ball at the park, consistently. So I like our lineup, but I do think our bullpen and what Alex said about being maybe the best bullpen left in the tournament. I really believe that, and you already mentioned the fact pitching wins games, and I think that is. I think that's going to be the key to us winning this weekend. I think we got to limit our walks as a pitching staff because they're going to hit some big flies, and then the pitching side on the other side. I think them being so right-handed versus our left-handed lineup is going to be something that plays into our favor. So I am picking the Pack to win the Supers this weekend. And do I have to say in 3 games? Because I really wouldn't be shocked if we do it in 2. And maybe that makes me a huge Pack homer. How do you feel about that, Adam?
I think we win in two. I mean, I really do. I mean, it's Charlie Condon only gets what 10 or 11% of the at bats, so you cannot let that guy hurt you. Um, you know, pitch around him. And hope that he chases something borderline, out of the zone. Um, so you can't let him hurt you. But I do. I like our chances. I really do. I think the fact that Vegas or the odds makers, if you will, have us. I don't know where it's at. I hadn't followed it, but at one time I saw somebody said it was close to even. The fact that it's even and it's a home series for them, you know, basically says that they like us more. I mean, it's just they're getting the nod. I mean, the fact that it's the odds are even is weighted because they're the home team. So I don't know how much, like in football they say it's what 3 points, but I don't know the effect that has in baseball, but it's significant. So I think that shows that they like us too. Um, I don't know. We'll see. I know at one time what going into the was it in the ACC tournament? Maybe we were at like plus 3,500 or 4,000 to win the College World Series, and I think we're at like 18 or 1,900 now. So I don't know. I like it. Again, I'm frustrated by the slot. I'm frustrated by the 2 noon games. I mean, there's only us and the Oregon State Kentucky Super are the only two supers that are number one seeds from the regional. So there's no number two seeds that won. So there's 5 series that are 1 versus 3, and then Evansville, obviously in Tennessee, there's a 1 versus 4, and we got freaking back-to-back noon games. So I'm just frustrated by that. But anyway, and maybe,
Yeah,
but maybe maybe in a
NCAA.
hot, yeah, maybe in a hostile environment that could be an advantage, right? You don't know. So I guess
You
that's
can't drink but so
the
many cold
positive
beer
way to
before
spin it.
noon.
That's right.
Can't drink but so many cold beer before noon. So of the top 10 now in the D1 baseball RPI, the Pac's at 10. None of that matters anymore because playoff seeding is set. But we have played Virginia at 9, Clemson at 8, Florida State at 5, and UNC at 4. And we are 7-4 against those opponents. And we won game 1 against UNC. We won game 1 against Florida State. We won game 1 against Virginia, and we won game 1 against Clemson. And if Florida State, we only played 2 times, and we did lose game 2 to Florida State, but we beat UNC and we beat Clemson in games 1 and 2. Virginia was the one where we actually won the rubber match, but we've played 4 out of the 9 teams ranked against us in the RPI. And Georgia will be the 5th. Georgia's at our RPI 6 now, and we have a 7-4 record against those teams. So I'm taking the Pack in 2, Adam. I'm taking the Pack
Yeah,
in
me
2.
too.
Is that
Me too.
disrespect for our Georgia fans? We got a lot of Georgia friends in the produce business too, so probably
We got a
not
lot of
very
Georgia.
popular pick.
We got a lot of Georgia friends, but I'm not a fan of them. I'm a fan of them personally, but not of Georgia. So, Georgia. I mean, you look at the teams that we played in the series wins that we've got. That you mentioned those top. I mean, how many freaking? I can't even keep up with how many top 12. 5 top 12 series wins, and I think Georgia's most impressive series win is probably against South Carolina. They lost the series at home to Florida to close out um, the regular season before the tournament. But they did not play nearly the SEC slate that somebody like Florida did. So they
And if you look at the SEC very good at them. But if you look at the teams ranked against, I mean, if you just play an SEC schedule, you're going to have a top 25 schedule. The league's so good. But if you look at the teams ranked ahead of them, or the teams ranked in the top 10, they lost 2 out of 3 to Texas A&M. They lost 2 out of 3 to Tennessee. So that puts you at 2-4. They got swept by Kentucky. That puts them at 2-7. So if you look at their record versus top 10 RPI opponents, they are 2-7. Well, add a win against Clemson, that makes them 3-7, and the Pack is 7-4. So, yeah, I agree. I think that we're going to take care of business, and it's going to be exciting. We're going to have to figure out how to get to Omaha because we're really, really, we're really busy right now.
you mentioned
but go ahead.
dang, I don't know what the delay is. You mentioned that we're 7-4, but we're also 5-3 on the road versus the teams remaining in the supers. So I think that bodes well too. And to talking about the teams left in the supers, we mentioned that that there was 5 ACC teams that were hosting, and all 5 ACC teams that were hosting regionals, the number 2 seed was an SEC team. They all lost. All the 2 seed SEC teams lost, and all 5 of the ACC host teams won. So, I mean, I think that just goes to show you that, I mean, how, daggone good our conference is, especially at the top. I mean, I would argue that the top of the ACC is better than the top of the SEC. Um, and and it's kind of showing that way so far in the tournament. So anyway, I digress. I think I'm sticking with the pack. I think we're gonna go to Athens and win. I'm confident, which I'm normally not. I'm normally
There's a
I am a pack homer, but I normally am a little hesitant. But I like our chances.
And there's a lot of SEC bias too. I mean, I'll be honest. Last week I had some. I thought LSU was going to go to Chapel Hill and come out of there and win that series. Or I thought even when they got to the final game that they were going to do it. And man, the right fielder out there, gosh, he ruined their hopes and dreams. Tough break for him, but on that fly ball there late. But like you said, I mean, the ACC, I think year in and year out, I'm not going to sit here and tell you I think the ACC has been better than the SEC, but I think this year it
Oh no,
is. And we've
yeah,
talked about our schedule all year. And if you look right now at the teams in the supers, uh, we dang sure got a good argument. Before we talk about the other super regional matchups, uh, one of the things that I did want to talk about, Adam, is if you've been paying attention, which I kind of mentioned that last week we might have or I mentioned Sunday night that we might have cost Coach Kingston his job at South Carolina, and we did. He got let go on Monday, immediately after his return to Columbia. Former NC State head coach Ray Tanner gave him his walking papers, but the 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 money in college baseball right now is much different than it's ever been before. I think you text me today, me and Wes, a text from Aaron Fitt talking about how it's going to be just absolute insanity what happens in the portal in college baseball this year. And we've talked about it a little bit. It was on our first podcast, I think. We talked about NIL money and, um, you know, I think that's something that all of us, if we want to continue putting good products on the field, that we got to pay attention to. If you look this week, ECU, it looks like it's poised to be rated by some of the big boys. I think they got several guys in the portal right now. Root, who's one of their best pitchers, is in the portal. If you saw this week, we've always been very respectful of the Campbell program, what Coach Hare's done there. The Wolfpack is already signed. I mean, how hard is that as a college coach? We're about to play in a super regional to go to the College World Series. We're 2 wins away from the College World Series. And Coach Avent, obviously, in that 7 days that he's got in between this week, or 6, he's been on the phone, or maybe even I'm assuming in person, with the proximity of the 2 schools, with Dalen Thompson, the outfielder from Campbell that we already have inked or committed. I don't know how. I don't guess you have ink on these not NIL deals, but these portal deals. But we already, kind of added a Campbell outfielder to our 2025 baseball roster. It's a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week job identifying guys that are on the ledge, not only on other teams that can help your team, but the guys that are on your own team. Because we mentioned it earlier, and it's like, man, you almost feel like we shouldn't talk about it because hell, we don't want to give anybody any ideas. Well, come on, we ain't got that many people listening to us, and if you don't know who Jacob Duden and Derek Smith are by now, and Cooper Consiglio, and some of these other studs that we have, you don't know much college baseball anyway. But if you don't believe that them guys ain't gonna probably get some numbers thrown at them, you're wrong. I mean, you agree with that, Adam?
I do. Especially you consider, the way I can't even imagine. I'm wearing my Cape Cod Baseball League hat right now. Um, you go up there to the Cape and those games in the summertime, and there's a couple hundred people there. A lot of scouts and a lot of us family, right? But I can't imagine how changed that probably is now. I mean, you're talking about other teams scouting players and trying to offer them NIL deals to get them to come. I don't exactly know what the transfer portal periods are for baseball, but um, it's going to be a real thing when these guys go play in these showcase events during the summertime, right? Um, I don't know. It's very, very frustrating. Like I said, it's hard to argue. You're not going to put. We said this early on. Like we asked to support one pack, support NIL. We were all said the same thing. We were slow to come around to that to start with. Coach Avent said the same thing. He was slow to come around to it. He did not like it. But the reality is, NIL is not going away. But what we can be mad about is the freaking NCAA and the transfer portal. If it weren't for that, then the NIL deal, creating free agency like it has, um, that's truly to me what is hurting college sports is the portal. It's not the NIL. I mean, guys were getting paid under the table. There was all kinds of deals being made before this. At least some of it could be out in person now, but the portal is what is just absolutely brutal. And I don't know, did y'all? Well, I say y'all. You Cal, did you see Gary Gilmore, the retiring coach from Coastal? His comments he made in the press conference the other night when they lost the Clemson regional.
No, I missed that.
Oh my gosh, you got to watch it.
No, I
So if
missed
you
that.
can go watch Gary Gilmore, who's the retiring coach at Coastal. I think he was at Coastal like 20, 25, 27 years. I want to say since 97. And he talks about how um, early on he almost got fired, and it was I can't remember the full story, but it was almost like the AD missed getting to meet with him, and he thought for sure he was going to get fired. But anyway, it worked out. Obviously, the guy, we lost a heartbreaker to him in Raleigh, the game that we came back and finished on Monday, and after the rain delay, and they go on obviously to win the College World Series in Omaha. But the guy was just absolutely just laid into the NCAA. He's like, if it worked this way in professional sports, and you had 100% free agency every year, then the Dodgers, the Yankees, and the Red Sox would have every single player. And that's not the way professional sports even work. So the fact that you're in this situation where you have 100% free agency every year is just ridiculous. I mean, and I know there is all this, there's all these legal issues for the NCAA, but they're going to have to, maybe they got to, get in front of, and hopefully they're doing this right. Hopefully they're arguing for this, collective bargaining or whatever change of status to allow for so they can do away with the portal because I know they can't continue to fight the lawsuits which brought this on in the first place. But I mean, to me, that's what's ruining college sports. It's not the NIL. That the NIL is not going away. NIL is just amplified by the fact of the portal. Like if let's just we brought up Duden and let's just say Duden, guy's got 92-mile-an-hour slider, 98, 99-mile-an-hour fastball. And that guy, if he's signed to NC State and there is not the transfer portal, and the guy wants to go out and do a commercial with Pat Comer Podcast,
Bojangles. Pat Comer
Bojangles,
Podcast.
yeah, Waters and Mathis CPAs, be a great spokesman for them. And he wants to go do that.
He can strike
those
out the
deals.
IRS in a heartbeat.
If he wants to do those deals, or if a player wants to do those deals that's on your team, then that's great. I don't have any problems with that. Again, and that's a changed opinion on my behalf, I should say. But the portal is
Me
just
too. I used to say
brutal.
they're all amateurs, and we both played some college sports, but we felt like the amateur thing was important. But we kind of realized, hey, especially in baseball, you got guys that aren't even on scholarship, that are starting every night.
Yeah. And
yeah, and I was, go
no,
ahead, Adam. I didn't mean
no,
to
that's
cut you
it.
off. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You're good.
But no, yeah. So and then you mentioned earlier like these summer leagues starting, and I don't know how you police this thing. I mean, I know there's some rules. I think that used to when you had to sit out a year, that was a huge deterrent of guys just making jumps and not earning their spot on the field. You don't transfer. Used to if you were a Division I player, say you're at NC State and you come in as a freshman and you don't like your role, then what you did was you went to a junior college. That was your only way to play. Like if
instead of
you
sitting
didn't
out.
like your role, and even more rare instances, maybe you come in as a freshman and you're so dang good, you don't want to wait 2 more years to go pro. So maybe you go to a junior college so you can go pro after your sophomore year. But now, you can just transfer overnight and be the starting guy. And obviously we benefited from that some. I mean, AMAC but AMAC's a graduate transfer, so
Graduate
even the old
transfer.
rule would
Yeah.
not have affected him. We need to be clear. Yep, we need to be clear about that. He is a ECU alumni, working on his master's degree at NC State. But like for example, right now, and this is another thing I was going to get to, was if we make it to the College World Series and we can only take 27 guys with us, which is just absolutely ridiculous. If your team makes it to the College World Series, you have to be able to bring the whole squad, because a bunch of those guys that have been catching bullpens or throwing live inter squads, so you didn't have to wear your pitching staff out and guys could get live ABs. Those guys are important parts of the team. But now, you can only take 27 guys with you. We got guys already that are playing in the Coastal Plains League or, whatever summer collegiate baseball league they might be playing in. So, what's to say a kid that came to NC State, he wasn't that happy, and he's got a buddy playing at Old Dominion, playing on it, who's out of the tournament now, or heck, even South Carolina, who's out of the tournament now, and they're playing on the Wilmington Sharks together. And he says, look, buddy, if you ain't happy at NC State, I'll talk to coach. I guess at South Carolina, he won't talk to coach yet, but I'll talk to coach and we'll see if we can't, find you a spot. I really think, we're losing our right fielder and, you could help us. And it just creates the Wild Wild West that we're in. So yeah, one pack NIL, anything you can do. And guys, I'm not saying this in any condescending way, because I can promise you I ain't giving tens of thousands of dollars, or I don't have that to give, but I think it's important that we contribute. And if we don't contribute, I mean, unfortunately, it's going to be what separates the big boys, from the guys that are just hoping to get hot in a regional, like Evansville did last weekend in Greenville. So that gives me a good segue into this weekend's super regional matchups. Go ahead, Adam.
No, and I was just going to say, just to clarify, I'm certainly not against NIL. I'm definitely a proponent for it. But the portal is what I just feel like is just ruining college sports, quite honestly. And I know that, I think Jay Billis was on his high horse about, such, talking about basketball and such a, TV networks making billions of dollars, literally with a B, coaches making millions of dollars, and the students. I'm not fighting against NIL. I think that's fine. Like, I do agree. Like, the money, the discrepancy of the money from zero to a basketball coach making 10 million is too great. I mean, it is. It's just too much, and it makes too much money for the university. And so I'm fine with those guys getting NIL deals and having the opportunity. They do have a lot of downtime. They do have a lot of, and if anything, it's teaching them good business practices, hopefully, how to market themselves. But the portal is what's brutal. The portal and the portal windows. You're talking about, the portal opening up and all these guys. And, I was scrolling through, somehow I got on Campbell's baseball page on X, and it was like, one of the players was retweeting. They had like 5 or 6 guys in a row, just boom, 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 all in the portal, and so it's not even like, for a coach, you're not even out trying to recruit, new players to come in for the guys that are graduating or going, signing, getting drafted. You're trying to recruit your whole freaking team back. That's insane. But
Amen.
the other thing about that was, talking about the portal windows and how there's this overlap now with the postseason. Keats was talking about the same thing. He was having to recruit because the portal window that opened up in the spring. I mean, we were having to recruit during our NCAA tournament run, and he was talking about like what a disadvantage that was. These teams that are already out of it are out going to visit these guys, and and our freaking teams play, preparing to get to the Final Four. And oh man, I could talk about that for a while. Let's move on.
Amen. And then on it, I will just add one last thing, that Coach Avent, he's old school as it gets. Coach Avent is one of the most respected guys in all of college baseball, and really hats off to him. and Coach Hart and Coach Chrysler and the rest of the coaching staff for what they've been able to even do in the portal. I mean, the guys they brought in last year in the offseason are a big reason we're standing here today. So it ain't. They always say it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks. So Coach Avent, I mean, it's amazing what he's been able to do when a lot of guys are just bowing out and saying, "I've had enough." So to the super regionals, I just made mention a minute ago that the more of this that we see, the less that you're going to see of the Cinderella stories like Evansville in the NCAA tournament. But I do want to go regional by regional. We're not going to, or super by super. We're not going to give you a huge breakdown because, quite honestly, we don't have the knowledge of all these teams. But me and Adam are going to pick them. Hated our buddy West wasn't with us. Maybe we'll tweet his out tomorrow, his picks. But the first one is the number 1 seed Tennessee Volunteers hosting the Evansville Aces in Knoxville. Evansville comes in as the number 63 RPI team in the country. I'll make it quick. I'm taking the Volunteers. Adam?
Yeah, I got to take the Volunteers too. I don't like them, but I got to take the Volunteers. I can make
The
this real
NCAA
quick.
wanted to see Chase Burns back in Knoxville, but they didn't get it. What'd you say?
I said I can
Yeah.
make this real quick. I like all the ACC teams.
Florida State over Connecticut. I'll take Florida State over Connecticut. Connecticut is RPI number 32. NC State over Georgia. We already picked that one. We're going with the sweep. The other ACC matchup, Clemson and Florida. I do think that one's intriguing. If Wesley was here, he would definitely 100% pick Clemson to Clemson. I'll take the Gators on Wesley's behalf and for myself. I'm going to go with the Gators. Virginia and Kansas State. I 100% like Virginia at home versus number 34 RPI, Kansas State.
Agreed.
And then the other ACC matchup, I mean, UNC getting, West Virginia at 29. Not a bad baseball club, but yeah, I hate to say it, but I like the Heels over the Mountaineers. By the way, you've never been to Morgantown, West Virginia for a football game. Me and Adam went a few years ago, and that's one heck of a time. So our other supers, we got the Oregon Ducks. Yeah, we do. You are going again this year. I should go, even though I don't have anybody to watch. This year we got this weekend we also got the Oregon Ducks and the Texas A&M Aggies. Who do you like in that one, Adam?
I think Oregon is playing really good. I want to pull for them just because I got Oregon friends, and I think Texas A&M is. I think they're good. I think they're a good baseball team, but I don't think they're unbeatable. But I just feel like at Bluebell Park, that place is insane. I think it's going to be such a electric environment, being that they get to play the second game at 7:30 night game. So I'll take the Aggies.
I'm going to take the Aggies in that one too. Can't dodge it. And then the other matchup, we have Kentucky and Oregon State in Lexington. And I think I got a lot of Kentucky friends, but I think other than our regional, which is, versus the number 10 and number 6 RPI schools, this is probably the most even matchup with Kentucky versus number 11 Oregon State. And I'm going to take Oregon State in this one, Adam. I think Oregon State has been they've been there a lot. They know how to win in the postseason. They know how to get to Omaha. I am going to take the Beavers over the Kentucky Wildcats.
I've always been an Oregon State Beavers fan. I think it goes back to I've got a bunch of friends that are Oregon State fans, but also Oregon State beat the Heels in the finals in Omaha 2 years in a row, I believe it was. And
so we're used to pulling for them. We're going to appreciate it.
We're used to pulling for them. That's exactly right. So I'm gonna ride that. I agree with you. I'm gonna take them over Kentucky because I do think Oregon State. It's all about being hot late and hot when it matters. So it's not about the resume at this point. So I take Oregon State too.
And there's been a little bit of talk about how the schools out west, we just talked about Oregon and Oregon State a little bit, but there's been some talk about how, Arizona got to host that regional because nobody watches the schools on the West Coast, and they had to give somebody a shot. Well, Arizona was obviously the wrong choice. I think they went 2-0 at home, but Oregon State's just good year in and year out, and I like the Beavers over
Yeah.
Kentucky. So that wraps it up for us on the Super Regional picks. Really wraps up. Anything you wanted to add before we close this thing out? I always got to say, follow us on Instagram and X at PackHomerPod. And gosh, I hope we got several more of these left this year, because that would
That
mean
would
we
be
have
fun.
made the trip to Omaha. We don't want to say goodbye for the summer yet.
No, I would say.
Anything,
I agree
Adam,
with
before
that.
we shut her down?
Not really. Not really baseball related. I was just going to say it is D-Day. It's the 80th anniversary of the Allied troops storming Normandy. You mentioned earlier that was the reason why we're standing here today. I think the sacrifices that those young men made 18 years ago is the reason why we're privy to the freedoms and America's pastime, baseball, that we love so much. We might be if it weren't been for those men's sacrifice, we might be having to play badminton. So
Soccer.
soccer. Yeah. So yeah, I just would say Coach Avent today during his meeting with the press, I guess, before they were boarding the buses, spoke about that as well. And I forgot about to mention it last week when they had the watch party on Selection Monday. That was on Memorial Day, and they had the team. I think they said it was JT Jarrett's idea to wear their the military themed hats that day to the watch party,
I
and
love
they
it.
did that for Memorial Day. And Coach Avent spoke about Memorial Day, and then today he spoke about it being the 80th anniversary of D-Day. So, man, hard not to like that guy. So,
Amen. My sister's 40th birthday today. That's one of the ways I've always remembered D-Day, other than being an ex-history teacher. But yeah, my sister's 40 today, and I shared with Adam yesterday and Wes that I was on a flight back yesterday from Florida,
oh man,
and we had a fallen soldier on our flight. And if you've ever been a part of that, I've unfortunately been on several flights where a soldier was brought home to be laid to rest. Yesterday was the first time that of all those times actually that I'd had the family on the flight with us, and they let the family off, and most of the folks on the aircraft gave them a round of applause and thanked them, and it was a somber moment. And Adam, thank you for mentioning that, because we don't thank our troops enough, and I don't think they always get the respect they deserve anymore. But yeah,
well,
appreciate you
talking
bringing that
about
up.
Talking about the Cape Cod Baseball League. Check out what they got on the back of their hats.
Support our troops.
Yeah,
I love it. How fitting. And looking forward to a big one this weekend. Let's get it done, Pat. God, I want to go down there. A couple of years ago, Adam's got a picture. I'll let you share it on Twitter, Adam. A couple of years ago, I did a Pack versus Pigs breakdown before we had the podcast when we went to Arkansas. I told him this weekend, it's not Pack versus Pigs in the Super, it's Pack versus Pups. So go get it done, Coach Avent and boys. We will see you next week, and go Pack.
Pack.